Hello and welcome to Painting with Snakes. Today we are painting this adorable little strawberry. Strawberries are in season right now and they are so sweet and delicious. So let's honor this beautiful fruit by painting it today. I painted this yesterday on canvas, so feel free to use a little canvas just like this one. But I will be working on a canvas pad today, which is something great for beginner painters because you just have all these canvas sheets where you can practice your painting. So let's get started. All right, first let's talk materials. So per usual, I have my small brush and I have a medium brush that I'll be using today, just about these sizes. I know I need to clean them off. I will be doing that before we get started. You probably won't need your large brush unless you're working with a larger canvas. So just a small and the medium for today. And then the paints. So just like in my past videos, we'll be using the same paint. So if you bought those, great. I really like the Liquitex Basics. Really great for starting out. So you're gonna need just about every color that is listed below. And we will get started. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our palette. So that's something else you're gonna need. Actually, I ran out of palette paper, so I'm just using this lid right here. The acrylic paint will be really nice and easy to peel off. And if I have to throw it out, I have to throw it out, but I think I'm gonna be able to reuse this. And you're also gonna need a towel to clean up your brushes. And then your brushes should be in some water, or they can just be laid out right now, waiting to be used. But you'll definitely need some water. So let's get started. We're gonna start out by creating the shape of the strawberry, and we're going to use a little bit of that brown paint to do so. So I just put a little bit of the brown on my palette, and I'm going to grab my small brush, and I need to wipe it off because it's been in the water, but if yours is dry and ready, you should be good to go. So let's take a little bit of brown paint on our brush. We really don't need too much, and we do kind of want to go light because we want it to dry quickly because we want to get started. We don't need the thick brown paint for this, at least. All right, so let's create this shape. We're going to start with the actual strawberry shape, and then we're going to get into the leaves. And if you hear some meowing, that's Miles, my cat. He has not been able to leave me alone today, even though I've given him so many cuddles. Guy. So he might make an appearance and he might make some noise. So hopefully that's okay. Alrighty, so I'm gonna start here by doing this curved line, just like this. And then you're going to do curved line going down like that. And if you need to dip in a little bit more paint, you can, but again, going pretty light. And then there's another curved line coming down this way because the strawberry is kind of like resting. So there we go. We got our strawberry shape. Now we're going to get into the leaves. So the first one that I started with yesterday was this one right here in the center. So to create that, it's sort of like a diamond shape with a rounded top. So it's wider here in the middle, and then it comes down to meet, just like that. Then we're going to create this leaf right here that is coming out. So there's a little space between the two. You could do two straight lines, and then it's a little pointy at the end, just like that. I think I need a little more paint. And then we have this one here that you can see is sort of resting. We'll be creating a shadow for that. That one's gonna come out. It goes straight, and then it goes down a little bit, just like that. And then it goes up, just like that. All right, and then the next shape we're going to do is this one that comes right up next to that leaf. So it's kind of like an upside down triangle or V right there. And then a little funky sideways triangle. Now these are leaves. They're never a perfect shape, so it doesn't have to be perfect. And like I always say with acrylic paint, there is so much room for error because we can paint over and we can reshape things very easily with the paint because it dries so quick. So it is so perfect for learning. And then just a little bit over, we have another leaf coming out. This one's like straight, and then it's like a bump on the side like that. And then there's a teeny tiny one right next to that, just coming out right there. So perfect, we have our strawberry shape. All right, so we're moving on to our background. I will let you know that I am using this phthalo blue for this painting, but if you have a different type of blue, that is totally fine. This blue is just a bit different. Your background might look a little more natural to the color of the sky if you're using a different blue. This one, I don't know, there's just something kind of funky about it, but it still works when mixing the greens. So it's up to you. Your blue might end up a little different, so just wanted to warn you. All right, so let's get started on the background. I've already taken a decent glob because I'm running out and I had to cut the bottom. But I would recommend about a teaspoon. Let's get started with a teaspoon amount there. And then we'll need a teaspoon of white. And you can grab your medium brush for this. So we're going to take equal parts blue and equal parts white and mix together for that background. But it's really up to you. If you want it to be a little bit lighter, you can do that. We are going to create the background and then we're gonna go in and add the shadow. So I've mixed it, it's about this color here. And so to do our background, just like how we have done in other videos, we're just gonna do backward strokes to create that. So we're just going with those back and forth strokes. And you may need to grab your small brush to get in between these leaves. But if you get inside the strawberry, it's no big deal because we will be able to paint right over that. So we're just doing those back and forth strokes there. And we'll be using like a decent amount of paint because we're gonna be adding a shadow in there, which is going to blend in to the paint that we have. So it's gonna be helpful if that paint is still just a bit wet. So if you do need to go over any areas, even later on when we're adding that shadow, you can do that. And with the canvas, if you're using this, you can paint your sides. I could definitely finish off the sides here right now if I wanted to, but it's up to you. It looks better on the wall if the sides are painted. So I'm just going to continue with these back and forth strokes. If you're using a canvas pad, you might want to like clip it to something because it does like to move around. So hopefully this easel won't fly. It went flying yesterday when I was painting. It was kind of funny, so maybe that'll happen again. You guys can laugh at me. And you can continue to mix paint as you go. Remember, it's really just equal parts blue and white. And if you do need to like get around that shape, you could curve, you know, make that curved brush stroke, and then you could just straighten it out because everything's still nice and wet. So we can really just go back with our brush. And I'm gonna switch to a smaller brush for in between the leaves. That will make my life a lot easier. All right, so we have our background complete. You can, like I said, clean it up a bit, go back in with more paint if you'd like. You could lighten it up if you'd like, you know, add a little more white. Now we are going to add our shadow. So with going back in with our medium size brush, I am going to mix some more blue, but a little bit of a darker blue. So it's going to be more blue than white, like that. And then I'm going to take the tiniest little dab of brown and mix that in. That will darken it even more. And you're sort of going based on what your background is. So you can see here, I think because it's dried, the background looks a lot lighter, but you're gonna wanna go, you know, just one shade darker for this shadow here. And I kind of already have a little bit of a shadow underneath, just naturally from how I was applying the paint. So that helps, but we wanna create this shadow shape here. If you can see, it's very subtle, but it's there. So to do that, now I have my darker blue. I'm going to create like sort of like a horizon line right here, and then go down here, and then it comes up and goes here. And then there's a nice shadow underneath that leaf, just like that. Really for that, it's really just like a blob of that darker. And you know, in this example here, that leaf is a little farther away, so that shadow is a little bit longer. So you really just want to mimic the size of that leaf right there. All right, also, now we're going to go in with the dark straight under. And if it's easier for you to use your small brush here, you can definitely do that. So as you can see, it's darker and then gets a little bit lighter. So what I do next is now, we could dry off our brush if we need to, but what we're going to do is do a dry brushing technique where we take that paint and we're just blending it back and forth, so that it's blending in with the blue that we already have there. And I'm just doing these vertical strokes. Now let's blend in this area. So I'm just going to take that paint that was there and blend it up. Perfect. So we got our shadow going. Now we're going to enhance the shadow just a little bit by adding a darker line underneath. And I'm going to switch to my smaller brush just to help me get a little bit more accuracy there. So we're going to darken the blue one more time. So you may need to mix more. Remember, it's more blue than white and a little bit of brown. Now we're gonna add even more brown to that. And we really don't need a ton of paint here, so you wanna try to use what you have. So there we go, I darkened it just a bit more. And I'm going to follow the bottom shape of this strawberry and just create this nice line. And I kind of apply, like, go back and forth like this. So it's not just like a stark line, it's like a more gentle line. And then the shadow is continued up here. And I'm just doing like little tiny touches. Okay. And then I'm going to deepen the shadow underneath this leaf as well, a little bit. And if your line is looking too like strong, you can again do that dry brush technique and just blend it out a little bit. But it is nice to have like a good defining line underneath, but as you can see, it's just very subtle, and you can just make it even more subtle by just doing little taps with a dry brush, and then that's just like helping to make that line a little more like blended in. So there we go. We have our shadow underneath. It's very subtle, but it's there. And now we're going to move on to the strawberry. All right, so we're gonna start with the leaves. And I have some yellow paint on my canvas now. And we're gonna mix some green. We're gonna start with that darker shade of green, and then we're gonna go in with the lighter shade. So let's start mixing our green. So I have maybe a half teaspoon. And let's mix that with an equal amount of yellow. Maybe it needs a little bit more yellow. Okay, that's about where we want it. Just about like that. So that little darker green. All right. So we are going to start with this guy right here. And let's start with the tip. This one is going to be a solid dark green. And here we're using our small brush and we're filling it in, and we're doing like small strokes to fill in. Really nice and gentle. And I have a decent amount of paint on my brush, so it's filling in nicely. And you can even use this opportunity to reshape your leaf a little bit. Like if you wanted to make it a little bit bigger, you can do that there. I wouldn't go too crazy with the resizing, but you can do some resizing there. Perfect. Now we're gonna move on to the next one. So as you can see, there's like dark green towards the top and towards the bottom. So we're going to, let's get this tip, this darker tip. Let's bring the green up here at the top. And a little bit here. Sorry guys, I have a really itchy nose today, so don't mind that. Okay, perfect. We're gonna go in with a lighter green and complete that one in just a moment, but let's get all of our darker green pieces first. This one is a majority dark green as well. Let's start at the top. Take it down. And leave just like that corner there, because we're gonna go in with the light green there. Okay. Now we're gonna get this tip is dark, but then the rest of that piece is light green, or really it's a medium green. So let's get this point here. So again, just taking those tiny strokes to get that point. And we're good. All right, this next one has that darker green more towards the middle. So we're just going to do a few little brush strokes there towards the middle. And then this last one has some dark green at the base and a little bit towards the right. Perfect. Now we're gonna go in with our lighter green. Okay, so to create our lighter green, we already have that dark green. Let's just add some more yellow to it. And that's just gonna brighten it, just like that. And I'm gonna add a teeny tiny bit of brown to it as well. And a tiniest bit of white. It needs more yellow. Let's lighten it up with some more yellow. All right, perfect. So it should be about this shade. And we're gonna end up adding a little bit of white, just a tiny bit, to some of these leaves as well. So it gets lighter than this even. So we're gonna go in with this one right here. I have a lot of paint on my brush. For me, it's easy, but for you, if you're starting out, you might want a little bit less paint. Helps it, so you can control it a little bit more. So I added that, and then I'm just like blending some of that darker green in to that lighter green there. Now that I'm looking at this, I think I want to make my green just a shade lighter again. Just so I'm adding a little more yellow. That's probably better. Okay, and I'm just gonna add a dab there. And there's also a little bit of lighter green at the point, which I'll just add a little dab of there. And then here we have green on that lighter green on the corner there. I just placed it there. And then you can dry your brush off a little bit and then just do a little blending here. All right, you might need to dry your brush off again, clean it off to get some of that dark off because we really want this part to be light. So let's start at the root here and go up. And I'm sort of like using the side of my brush because it helps it get on there a bit more accurate. And make sure we're covering up the brown. And now I'm going to meet the darker, and I'm just gonna blend the two colors together a little bit here. There we go. So that we have that little gradual effect a little bit better. All right, let's go in here right at the top. We have our lighter shade, bring it down, meet that darker, blend them together a little bit. And I'm applying another layer because that brown is having a hard time being covered right there. Here we go. And I dried off my brush a little bit, and I'm going back in with my lighter green because there's light green here at the root. Perfect. And then this last one, we have a light green here. Off to the side. All right, we're not done yet. We need to add some highlights here. So to do that, I'm drying off my brush. I'm gonna grab some more white paint for my palette, since I need a little more. And I'm gonna grab a little bit of yellow and mix it in with my white. So it's like a really, see this shade right here? It's like a white, but it has like a teeny tiny bit of that greenish yellow tone there. And now we're going to go in and add that where we need some highlights. So there's some highlight here. Just a couple of dabs, blend it in with the paint that's wet. There's a little lightness here. Doing some up brush strokes, blending it with the paint that's already there. There is some lightness here. Blending it in again. And you might, if you're picking up too much paint, you might want to dry your brush off. And then we have some lightness here. And then a little bit here. And then we have a little bit here. Okay. Okay, now we're gonna move on to the part I'm most excited about. I just think painting with red is very fun. We're going to paint with red, and we're going to start our strawberry, the actual delicious sweet fruit part. So let's grab our red. All right, so I have a blob of red on here, and I'm going to take the tiniest dab of brown and mix it with the red. Something about using colors straight from the tube just never has sat right with me. So even though this red is very accurate to a strawberry, I still think it needs a little something. So you add that. We got a nice amount. I'm using my medium brush. And we're gonna start by just making beautiful strokes. And we're sort of doing lines with our strokes, you know, like straight strokes. And we're following the shape of the strawberry here. And make sure you're painting over your brown. And we're just following. Look how satisfying it is to see that red on the canvas. So pretty. All right, here's a cool part. I don't know why. It's cool to me because this is where we clean up. So as long as your green isn't too wet, we're going to make some strokes to cover that area where it meets. Perfect. Beautiful, she's coming together. All right, now that I have that, there's some darker areas within the strawberry. So what we're gonna do is we're going to add a touch more of brown to that red. So it just darkened it a shade. And now we're going to add some of that dark. Where is that dark? It's here on the bottom, it's here towards the top, and then there's a little bit towards the middle. And since our paint is wet, it's gonna be nice and easy for us. So again, with that medium brush, I'm going in. And just painting it on. And you know, because there's paint on there, some of that color might lift off onto your brush. So you might need to just dip in again and add a little more. Goes till about there. And you might need to mix some more paint. Add some more brown. And then there's some dark here. And it goes around the edge here. Just like that. And then there's some that goes through the middle. So I'm just gonna I'm kind of doing like this little like back and forth X, but also sort of smoothing it. So there's just like a nice subtle way to add that color. And then just sort of smoothing some of those areas. Just like so. So now our strawberry has a little bit more dimension, and then we're going to go in and add our seeds. So I have a couple brush options for my seeds, but if you're just using 3 brushes and you have a small brush that looks like this, we're just gonna use this little corner here to place our seeds. Or if you have like a small brush like this one, you can use it too. But what we're doing for the seeds is we're gonna do really light touch, whoops, with a little bit of paint. So I'm taking a little bit of yellow and a decent amount of white. Mix that together. I'm running out of space, but it should look like that. You really barely need any paint. And I'm going to dab it a little bit here. And we're going to start by just doing the most light touch, lightest touch ever. And we're just going to make these tiny little specks, barely there. We really don't want the seeds to become the focal point of the strawberry. And we don't want to make 1,000 seeds or how many are actually on the strawberry. We're just making notice of them. And now I'm adding another row right above, but I am doing them, what is the word for it when something's in between? Staggering, sort of. So we're doing that like in between so that they're not lined up. And now we're gonna do that again. And as we go down on the strawberry, these little seeds are actually gonna get lighter and lighter. So I'm maybe pressing into my paint one more time, and then I'm just going to go with what I have, just what I have on my brush already, and just do them really light. And they actually become less frequent as we go down as well. Maybe I need to touch again. Because if you're like me, your strawberry is probably decently wet still. And they don't need to be super uniform, because that's not how they look, because of all the shadows and things that are going on. So now I'm just doing them, you know, not as many. And it's like they almost sort of disappear by the time you get to the end. So that should be good enough. See how there's like a variation of them? Like they're just not super perfect because they're not supposed to be super perfect. Alrighty, we're moving on to our highlights and then we're done. Okay, so similar technique to how we did our seeds. We're gonna do that really light touch with the shadow. So I'm just taking a little bit of white, just the tiniest touch of white. And yes, my brush looks green, but that's because it has dyed itself green, but it is clean, I promise. So I have the tiniest bit of white, and we're gonna start adding some highlights. There's some highlights here, there's some highlights on the left, and there's a little in the center. So let's start over here. And there's some highlights sort of circling the seeds. So I'm just doing the tiniest little tap in this area around the seeds. Just like so. It's so subtle. And then there's those taps there on the left side as well. And if you accidentally do too much paint, dry off that brush and just do some light taps, and it's gonna blend it in a bit more. And then there's a little bit towards the center. And now you have your highlights. So, what I always like to tell people in every painting class is these paintings, most paintings are not meant to be looked at super close. So this is the time where you're gonna take a step away from your painting, look at it from the way it's supposed to be looked at on the wall, and see what you think. Give it a look. Do you want to add more shadows? Do you want to add more highlight? What do you want to do? Or are you happy with it? I'm happy with mine. I'm at a stopping point, but you guys know what to do from here. So if you need to do some tweaking, feel free. But if there's anything you want to cover up or change, wait till that paint dries. If there's any times that you want to like alter that paint, use it. You can alter it while it's wet, especially since that strawberry fruit part is probably still wet for you. But that is everything for today. Thank you for joining me. I would love to see how your painting turned out. So you can tag me on Instagram, let me know in the comments. And that's everything. So thank you so much.